So, welcome and good afternoon or evening, everyone, whatever you are in the world. Welcome to our first live webcast. We're very excited to have you. My name is Magdalena Gonzalez, and I'm the current president of the Police Society for Problem-Based Learning. So, we're very happy today that you join us, and we greatly appreciate your time as we explore important topics in policing and public safety. Thank you for being part of this valuable learning experience. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to post them on the chat or under the Q&A session at the bottom of your Zoom video area. Let's start asking everyone for a brief introduction. So I will start with Greg as he also introduces our society and our values. Greg.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. So I'm Greg Seville. I was a police officer in Peel Region in Toronto, in Canada for 10 years, and I currently I'm a police trainer and a consultant working out of Denver, Colorado. We started the Police Society for Problem-Based Learning, or PSPBL, about 20 years ago as a result of the end of a large research and training development program funded by the U.S. Department of Justice, in which we redevised the training program, the field training programs of policing, and that's currently called the National Police Training Officer Program or National PTO Program. And this society was started as a nonprofit organization of people interested in advancing the quality of police education and training and providing other options and new alternatives and new opportunities for trainers. So PSPBL has been around for a long time, and this webcast is one of our deliverables. So that's it.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. Paul, would you be willing to introduce yourself now?
Yeah. How you doing? My name's Paul LaFeria. I am the executive director of the PSPBL. I'm also a retired police captain with 35 years of service at the Lowell, Massachusetts Police Department. I'm also an attorney. Don't hold that against me. I've been an attorney for over 30 years, and I've been a trainer with the MPTC, which is the Massachusetts Training Council, for about the last 20 years in that. And I am also, or I used to be, our coordinator for our PTO program in Lowell. So that's me.
Thank you, Paul. Renata, could you introduce yourself now?
Of course. Hello, everybody. My name is Renata. I have been a police officer in Brazil for 17 years. At PSPBL, I work as vice president. Brazil has a long work with PBL police training since 2016, and we have great results of changing police culture. And I worked at the police academy for 10 years, developing policing trainings in PBL. At the least 6 years was with PBL methodology. And in my master program, I continue researching about the topic. And now I also work as a teacher in PBL programs. I coordinated one of these courses, these trainings. Thank you.
Thank you, Renata. Jerry, we go with you next.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Jerry Cleveland. I'm here in Perth in Australia. I am also the co-founder of PSPBL and wrote the program with Greg many, many years ago. I have a broad experience in public safety, starting as a policeman myself and then moving on to police training for many, many years. I'm a lawyer currently, and I do a lot of work around the world, working with governments to assist with police services and how they're operating. I'm also an educator. I was a high school principal and a teacher for quite a number of years, and I'm really interested in how we're training our new police officers. So that's been the focus of my training for the past 30, 40 years. Over to Roger, I guess. Milena, took your job away from you there.
Sure, thanks. Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Roger. I am a charter member of the Police Society for Problem-Based Learning. I helped form the organization when we first started it, like Paul. My organization was the Richmond Police Department in California. We were one of the pilot agencies, like Paul, who was with Lowell, Massachusetts at the time. At Richmond PD, we implemented the PTO program, and I became PTO, and then the PTO coordinator, and then the PTO supervisor when I got promoted to sergeant. And then I retired, and I was retired for about 9 years, earned a master's degree in adult education, and did some private stuff, and then decided that I wanted to go back and do the job instead of talking about it. So here I am in San Diego as a San Diego Sheriff's Department deputy. I'm a bailiff in a courtroom, and it's a job that I love, and I'm just grateful to be back in policing, and I'm heading toward, well, I've just passed 28 years in policing so far, and I'll probably have about 32 or 33 by the time I'm done. So that's me. I'm the current treasurer of the Police Society. So, all right, Milena.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. As you see, we have a great board of directors, and they have shared our half an hour here to share with you what are the tips to actually get you started on your career. And to be able to do that and to start our conversation, let's just review the video that we shared with you in the past emails. Let me just share quickly, and then we can start our conversation. Go ahead. Oops. There are some missing. I forgot.
Reading your beat. The power of geospatial intelligence. This training video is for new police officers, emergency workers, investigators, and other professionals beginning their careers. It is especially useful for new employees in the Police Training Officer Program who are completing their neighborhood portfolio exercise. It pertains specifically to the book You in Blue, Chapter 3 and 4, and Swift Pursuit, Chapter 4. If you're a new police officer or employee beginning your career, there's two elements to your job that can be crucial for your future. One is to know your geography, know your area, the streets, the layouts, the destinations, the detours. Second is to know your socials, knowing the people, being able to understand who lives there, how do they live, what are their names. Geography and social, geospatial intelligence is the key that will help you in your career. The first thing you must do in order to master this is to improve your problem-solving skills. People around you can help you do that, but you must get out of the car. Simply driving down the road isn't enough. You need to be able to talk, walk, look, and listen. Improving your problem-solving skills is about getting to know people in the area and not just your immediate clients, not just the geography. Geography is important, but it's not enough. For example, where are the dark areas at nighttime? Where are the ATMs where there might be robberies? The troublesome bus stop locations. These are things that the geography and people there will help you do. The second element to this is finding help in unsuspecting places. Every place, every job, every beat has resources if you take the time to get out and look. Go into malls, walk, ask people. Go to schools, community barbecues, sporting events, places where the elderly meet and chat. They can tell you a lot about an area. Underground parking lots. Maybe there's security guards who can tell you where cars are being stolen. These are all elements about knowing your beat outside the normal everyday activities. The third area is finding assets that you didn't even know existed. There are all kinds of them. They exist everywhere, but you must get out and talk to people to find out where they are. Reading your beat and getting to know people is a key element of being a successful professional. Look at whatever data you can obtain about your area. Crime maps, charts, news reports. All these help you learn your area, learn your people, and help you read your beat. That is the path toward a successful career. Good luck.
Well, thank you very much for that. let us start our conversation. And the first question that I would like to ask, and anyone is free to answer that. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot. How does the trainer introduce the idea of knowing the beat? How do you do that?
Well, I'll start. I had the good luck. It's Jerry here. I had the good luck of working on what is Canada's busiest beat when I was a police officer. And it's to make sure that you take a holistic view when you are learning your beat. Don't just learn who the bad guys are, to use the colloquial. You have to go out there and find out who everyone is on that street. One thing we focus on in police training is we have to know where we are all the time, which is critical. Of course we do. I think just as critical is we have to know whose company we're in all the time as well. And that includes our shopkeepers. That includes all of the local inhabitants, all the people who come into the area for work. We had 10,000 homeless people through the summer on our beat. You can't get to know 10,000 people, but you sure need to know where they're sleeping at night, what they're doing, where they're getting money, where they're eating, where they're gathering. Those things are all critical to a beat officer's information. I'll pass it off to one of the other folks here.
I don't mind jumping in. Thank you, Jerry. It's Greg here. To that point, I think one of the travesties in policing over the last decade or two, especially in the USA, is the demise of the foot patrol. Very few foot patrols are left anymore, unfortunately, and that was a great way to get to know your beat. New York City has just reinstated the foot patrols finally after 1 or 2 years ago. The neighborhood cops, and there's only a few of them now, but they're now realizing what a mistake that was. It may have been one of the causes of the dysfunction between the community and the police in the last number of years. So knowing your beat is not just a thing you do on the side. Every new apprentice, every new employee, every new cop sits with somebody who takes them out and shows them the ropes. And so the question that we ask in PSPBL is, how do you do that? As a trainer, how do you do that? What we do in my crime prevention work in high crime neighborhoods, and what we did in the police training officer program, is we created an actual exercise. And the exercise is something that the recruits do. It's something they're evaluated on, and it's not something they just do, willy-nilly. They have to actually become skilled at that. And the exercise is called the neighborhood portfolio exercise. And what they do in this, and it's based on some strategies that we used to use years ago, is they create what we used to call the beat book. We call it the map of the area. They map their area with not only the locations and the geographies that you saw in the video, but also the social aspects, the geospatial intelligence. So they map out who's who, where's where, what the times are, when the festivals are, who runs the school, what's the name of the school principal, who runs who's in the church, things like that. And the officer actually has a record and reports back to the trainer what that record looks like and who works there, and then makes a presentation to staff to see how knowledgeable they are about their beat. So those are tactics that we found very valuable in the police training officer program. So that's me. Over to somebody else.
This is Paul here. Just to follow up on what Greg was talking about is we've done many of the NPEs in Lowell, and I'm going to tell you, it's enlightening to see, because what we end up doing is we take those geographic, cultural, and demographic type of projects that the recruits have to do, and we had them actually presenting it to the command staff. And what was a big takeaway from there was the command staff was impressed by how thorough that the new recruits learned their areas and stuff, and that they actually learned stuff that they didn't even know about the areas. One of the groups that we had actually went over and went to every single business and got contact information for every single business there. And the chief at the time was like, do we even have this in our, in the dispatch, so that we can get a hold of businesses if they should be broken into at night and this and that? And the answer was no. And so they said, well, let's get it out there. So it's kind of interesting to see what these kids find out, because, they're a lot more tech savvy than we, or at least I am anyways, from the past and that. And some of the stuff they come up with is unbelievable, and is actually the in the long run, what ends up happening is the PTO, which is the trainer, actually learns stuff too that they didn't even know. So I think it's a great way of getting them engaged in their community so that they, when it's time for them to be there by themselves, they can do it without a problem.
I'd like to, if I could, just talk a little bit about the other side of the coin, because I think when you ask the question, how do you teach your trainees about how to learn your beat? I'm afraid that there may be some people who would say, well, we don't. We don't really have a framework for that. And it's kind of a reactive process. It's a reactive learning process. You get a call for service. It happens to be in your beat. You go, you learn who lives in that house. You get a call for service at a bank, and you learn where the bank is. You learn where the entrances are and what streets are off of it, so you can seal it next time you go there. You might learn who the bank manager is, and it's very reactive. And I think what Jerry and Greg are talking about with the framework for the neighborhood portfolio exercise is that it provides a proactive way to learn your beat, and that's one of the things that attracted me to the PTO model. But I'm afraid that there are some people who are just good at knowing who's who on their beat, and we just kind of expect trainees to learn that by osmosis, by just, follow along with me and see how I talk to people. And we'll go talk to Joe today, and I know his girlfriend lives at this house, and I know that he has a kid over there, and you're supposed to just kind of pick that stuff up, but that doesn't make you good at doing it yourself. And you have to develop those skills of being able to talk to people, get your trainees out of their cell phones, out of their digital devices, and be able to have those conversations. And I'm afraid that sometimes we don't teach people to learn their beat in a proactive way. It's very reactive. And so I think the neighborhood portfolio exercise for me was a proactive way to do that. And that's what I thought was a benefit.
So talking as I'm the only one here that is not a cop, by the way. I didn't introduce properly myself, but I am an educator. But talking as I guess a non-cop, do you think we could have prevented a lot of issues if we were more proactive instead of reactive?
Can I take your role for a second and say I'd like to push that question towards our Brazilian friend, because if they're trying to do exactly what you just asked in the favelas by saying if we get people in there, maybe of all of us, Renata is probably the best one qualified to answer that question.
Yes, it's the point. What I like most about PBL methodology is that we actually can see people changing for better. This helps our police to go better, to be more efficient, to be safer, only because people can realize that when we are a better person, we can be better cops, we can be better fathers and mothers and everything in our life. You see, it's not about PowerPoint informations and reading again and again. We really can look inside and ask ourselves, what should I do? What is better for me, for the society, and for my colleagues? So you really can develop skill ability. It's our story in Brazil.
Can I ask you specifically about them going into the favela, where they're sending police officers into the favelas to deal with some of the high crime areas, Renata? How's that going down there?
Yes, I live in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. We don't have a lot of problems and we don't have so many favelas here, but you have some areas that are dangerous than others. And even in this place, the police officers, they know they have conscious about their action, so they can respect people, they can act in a more efficient way. You see, it's not anymore necessary to hit people, you see, because they really understand that the police job is to be safe in the society. So people are our friends. The society are police friend. It's not the opposite anymore. It's amazing. We can meet some cops years after the police PBL training, and they say to us, "I've never forgiving the PBL experience. Now I'm a better person." We are not talking about only professionals and cops. They always say we are better person, people. You see?
Could I just add Renate's used a term a couple of times that you may not be familiar with if you're watching this for the first time, and she used the term PBL. And PBL refers to problem-based learning, which is a form of education that we adopted in the PTO program many years ago. And problem-based learning is, it used to be, well, the closest we have in most academies today is called scenario-based training. But problem-based learning is a whole nother level. So scenario-based training would be kind of like high school, and problem-based learning would be like in graduate school. So much more advanced form of, much more sophisticated form of getting the learner to learn the topics by working actual problems. And in our case, we're talking about learning problems with the community. And in this particular webcast, it's learning in the community because you have to learn the beat in order to do that effectively. So PBL refers to a teaching method.
No, and it's important to understand too the empathetic element of PBL as well, right? Renata touched on that, how as a community, if you're working with these problems, it's not only for the cop to be empathetic, but it's also for the community that is so important to be empathetic to these new cadets or to the new cops on the street, that right now we don't have that empathy in both sides, right? We're lacking that. So I think you guys actually talk about why it is important that we do this type of training. Anyone would like to add anything else on the why?
I'll add it from an educator's perspective. One of the things that you have to do if you're going to work in an academy or teach or run an academy, you have to understand that we're dealing with adults, and the way adult brains operate, the way that we learn isn't the way that we're traditionally taught in high structure areas such as military training or whatever. It doesn't induce creativity or problem solving. So what we recommend is when you are introducing the beat to them, have them, if they're working with a training officer, that's fine. But you can also encourage them to speak to the other young police officers on the shift, call it kind of a buddy up system where they team up and they learn about the activities. It's much less threatening. So don't be afraid to create learning cadre groups of your new employees, let's say anyone under 3-4 years. You offer them choices. You say, hey, listen, what about this neighborhood is really interesting to you and what would you like to know, as opposed to going there and handing them a list and saying, learn all these things. They'll surprise you what they come up with, as Paul said to you. So give them a bit of autonomy. Plan with them. Give them something that they can go in there and plan. Who are the important people and how do you want to tackle what it is you want to learn? So have some planning in mind. Expect good results. Don't expect mediocrity. Tell them you want it to be outstanding material that's going to benefit everybody on their platoon, everybody in their division, everybody on their police service. And then ask them to prove what they've learned. Give us the facts, give us the evidence. Paul also talked about getting numbers and having that stuff provided to the rest of the shift. So they have to prove what it is that they're learning. And finally, and the one that's most important, is make sure that it's fun for them to do this. And I don't mean fun as in singing and dancing. I mean fun as in it's something that they're really celebrating as they're learning and they're seeing the results of it. So they're my suggestions for how you can get adult learners who are out on the street to learn their beat in an engaging way.
I'd like to talk. So Jerry's points are well made about talking about it from the perspective of an educator. Talking about why you learn your beat from the perspective of a cop, I mean, most of us would say, well, it's obvious. You need to know where the alleyways are. You need to know the geography of the area that you're working. As Greg pointed out in the video, you have to learn where the dark spots are. What areas are not well lit. What areas are prone to the drug sales. Those kinds of things. But then there's you build on layers. That's the geography of it. But then you build on layers and you learn the people. And you learn the business owners, you learn about who the residents are, and you learn about who the people are that you can count on, city or county people who have influence, preachers, all those kinds of things. But then you add on another layer and you learn who the crooks are. And you don't just learn who they are, you learn where they live, where they hang out, who their friends are. You learn what gangs associate with what areas, what gangs associate with what people, what gangs do not get along with other people. And so then you start you're building in officer safety stuff. All of that from the bottom layer of geography, how do I get from one place to another more quickly, is officer safety. How do I build relationships with the people who I need to have trust relationships with, because they're going to be my witnesses. They're the business owners, the preachers, the community members who support us, and building relationships with the people who don't support us is just as important. And then developing informants, the crooks. You build relationships, or at least identify who they are. That's all officer safety stuff. So if you want to ask me why it's important to learn your beat, I would tell you it's an officer safety status thing. When people know who you are as the beat officer, and they know that you're human and they can identify with you, they're less likely to beat up on you. They're more likely to give you information about stuff that's going on in their neighborhood. The trust is there. And I've actually experienced it where people have said, not about me, but about some other people, no, don't attack that officer. He's cool to me. He showed me respect. Don't beat up on him. And that stuff works its way through the community, even if it's in a neighborhood, even if it's in a block or a single street. But that's the kind of thing that you do when you're learning your beat, is you're learning the geography, everything from the ground up, the geography through who the people are, including the crooks.
So you mentioned here, everybody mentioned a lot of different things, from learning your beat, the geography, the social element, the cultural element too. So how can we ask these new cadets or new cops to balance that, the physical and the mental at the same time? Do you have any tips for that, or how will you go about doing that?
I have an answer, but I'm not going to keep talking, so somebody else answer.
Renata was shaking her head. Maybe she wants to answer.
Yes. In Brazilian case, the answer why PPL is another question. Why not? It was very clear that the training with PowerPoint and all kinds of trainings weren't working for us. And the cops weren't feeling well and weren't learning basic things about police. And we learned that the police academy was not doing his function, that is preparing the police officer for reality. So in Brazil, for the first time in many years, we saw police officers compromised and committed to their jobs. You see, and it was amazing because they asked us to stay in the police academy and to research about the police culture and about PBL and developing social and emotional skills together. So it was incredible. So we could see the question from another point. Why not? And it was for us the big start, the first step, the most important one.
So what Renata is saying in some ways is the training of PBL is helping manage these physical and mental challenges that the students or the future cadet will have. They feel more comfortable in their own situation. And I do agree with that. I teach post-secondary school, and I teach with the PBL methodology as well. And I do notice the students having more confidence speaking with the clients, even in their graduation point or after the fact, the comments that they come back, they're better prepared to solve the problems on the go. And that's something that as a cop, you really need to problem solve right away to be able to act in a way that is not damaging the community or the relationship that you have with the community. Anyone would like to add something else on this question?
I'd probably just like to say a few words about one of the key factors that we found when we wrote the PTO model and when we engaged with PBL training was that we weren't giving our police officers enough emotional intelligence and sort of toxic shock, that kind of that stress training. All we were doing it for was critical incidents, and we weren't doing it in the day-to-day stuff. So what we decided to do way back when was to introduce emotional intelligence training into academy programs such as the PTO and some of the basic academy courses. And I think that's a critical event. You can't go out in the street and talk to people, as we've all suggested you need to, if you're not an emotionally intelligent person. If you don't understand that what's coming back at you, as opposed to you just have one message to send out to people, then that's going to be a critical error in your policing. So understanding how to relationship manage, understanding good social skills when you're in uniform, self-awareness and self-management are all critical. And if we're not teaching those in academies today, your question is, why not?
Awesome. I have 2 more questions. I know we're run out of time almost, but we can stretch it just 5 more minutes. The conversation is great. So what about the audience and so many cultures? And for example, the US or Brazil or even Mexico, right? We have cities with high population, and we have rural areas that the world works in a totally different way in the rural communities, right? So what kind of advice could you give on this, on how to get to know the audience, or where are they going to be going, aside from what you already have given us?
Yeah, Paul here again. Like Lowell's kind of a big city. We actually have a large population. We have a large Southeast Asian population, Hispanic population, and we found out was that our officers need to become culturally competent in regards to their community as well as their beats. And what that kind of means is that you actually have to learn what the people are about and what the cultures are about that you're dealing with every day. Because we automatically assume that, we go in and we try to solve a problem and we try to help people out and stuff. And sometimes we get a cold shoulder, or we get people don't want to talk to us or whatever. And we're not sure why we're getting pushback and everything else. But it could be the fact of the different cultures that we're dealing with, that some cultures, their idea of somebody who comes to them in a uniform in their country and that is potentially going to take someone away, and they may never see them again. And so they're petrified of the police and that. And so unless you know this, unless you know what you're dealing with these different cultures that you are dealing with on a daily basis, how are you going to build the trust that you need in order to be able to help them? And so I think that's really important, is to actually just go to there, to if there's a synagogue or a temple or something, find out what you need to do. If, say, you get a call there and you have to enter there, because it can be as simple as, do I take my shoes off? Do I, or can I talk to a female by herself? In that, it could be something as simple as that, where you can potentially end up, disrespecting people because of their cultures and that, and not even realizing. So I think it's kind of really important for us to get that element, that cultural competency, so it'll make that trust between us and our community that much better.
I was going to comment earlier when Renata was speaking, but I had muted myself. That's a good thing I did, because her answer was better than mine anyway. So, but I think what I would add to this is we've heard from the educator's point of view and out of the police officer's point of view, but I think the one point of view that for me matters as much or more is the point of view of the residents and the community itself, and what do they have in it for the cops to know more about their beat. And I think if the cops and the police know each other better, what happens is you not only get emotional support, which answers the emotional intelligence question, you not only get officer safety support because the community is more willing to come forward, but you get a much better, more cohesive community, and the cop likes it, and the residents like it because all of a sudden they have people they can know by name. I remember training years ago in Seattle when we had uprisings of the police, and we had 5 teams with police and working with residents. And when the community was complaining about the cops, they were complaining about the other cops. And when I pointed out that they had police officers at their table, they said, no, they're not the police. That's Joe or Sally or whatever. And so it was a bond that had been developed. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what matters most for me.
Thank you. And maybe the last question to wrap it up. No, Paul mentioned a little bit about the technology earlier on. So how does the rookie and the trainer use the technology nowadays without letting it be a barrier between you and the community?
Oh, I got to take this one. There's far too much white hair in this group of panelists to be telling what to do about technology.
What white hair?
I do have white hair, but I work in technology. Come on.
All kidding aside, I think in this case, to be a great teacher, you've also got to be a good learner. And I think for those of you who are running academies, or those of you who are out there on the street being training officers, stand aside a little bit and learn this with your trainee. You have great skills that you're going to impart to them. But with a lot of the technological use, they'll know about apps, they'll know about things, they'll know about ways to get information that you won't have a clue about. And this is a golden opportunity for training officers to learn from their rookies, as much as it's a golden opportunity for you to teach them how to put the phones down and actually talk to people. So this is a nice opportunity for you both to share learning. And there are some fantastic sites available online for every single kind of location and how to learn it. Even you think of the tourist spots that say, put it into a chat GPT and say, what's the best way for me to learn about inner city New York? And chat GPT will give me 15 different ways to learn about it. So, I mean, we can learn a lot on this, and we don't have to be the fonts of all knowledge. And in terms of adult education, what a golden opportunity, as I said, to ask our learners to show us some positive ways to do it.
Yeah, letting that control go, that's for sure, right? Mm.
I'm finding out that because I'm a training officer now at the sheriff's department, and which is kind of surprising because I'm still learning stuff myself. But what I'm finding out is there really is no way to stop the trainees from pulling out their phones and doing stuff on their phones nowadays. It's just a part. It's so much a part of their culture and their nature now that obviously it's not something that you would even probably want to stop. But they're so good at it. But what I have found is that there is some give and take with technology, because the trainees don't know all the databases that we have to use. They don't know all the records management systems that we have to use. They don't know all of the for example, at my county, we have an internal intranet that's countywide. So it's huge. It's San Diego County, so it's big. For getting your paycheck, for checking your time card, for doing all those kinds of things. So there is an opportunity for some give and take, which is kind of cool because they don't know how to work that stuff. What I am finding, though, is that they pick it up very, very quickly, much more quickly than I picked it up. So it's kind of nice that you can let them use their technology, and they do have to still come to you to learn some of the technology. So that's kind of cool.
That's nice. I know we're running out of time. We run out of time already, but I love talking and I love these discussions. Not that I have talked too much, but any last words from our panel members?
Well, for me, we put a lot of this information into the 2 books that Jerry and I wrote. One was called The You in Blue, which is kind of like a letter to rookie police officers, and another book which we just wrote last year called Swift Pursuit, which is a letter to federal officers doing federal work. And the story basically is all this goes together: the emotional intelligence, the skills at interviewing, and knowledge on the beat. All it goes together into a way of thinking about the job. But it's a way of thinking about the job that just isn't about us and them. It's about working together with residents in the neighborhood. And the more we do that, the better cops we're going to be. So I'll leave it at that.
Love it. Anyone else?
I'm
Just
good.
to finish. Yes, you have a difficult profession. We face a violent crimes every day. We can see the bad side of being human. So cops have to deal with a lot of things, hard things. So with PBL, we are able to look for people and say, we care about you. You are not alone. And this is the point. You see, it's because of it that I'm so, oh my gosh, that I like so much working with PBL. And I can say it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Renata. Paul or Jerry?
I'm good.
You good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming to this webcast. We hope you learned something. We have more questions here that I didn't get the chance to go through. So obviously there's going to be a second one coming up soon. Maybe we can dive more into the differences between FTO and PTO. So also our training academies understand better the differences of these two programs and what NPEs facilitate to our learning as well. Well, thank you so much for coming over. We will follow up with an email with the recording for everyone available, as well as who is our winner. They will be receiving an email from us to get a copy of You in Blue, our book by Greg and Jerry. Thank you very much and have an excellent day.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.